and where the Messiah is going to gather his people. Judah, he's going to gather from the four corners of the earth. But the other tribes, he will gather from beyond the rivers of Cush in Africa.
Like a candle in the night that came and blew us away.
And like a thief in the night that came and stole it away.
We've been in the bondage for so long. We need a light.
All the Biafrans should stand up, rise up for your freedom.
It's a freedom song.
Freedom song, and together we save our land.
You know.
Freedom song, and together we save our land.
Yeah, from our religion, believe in nature, culture, now we are no one. So no more breathing, see we gotta go.
Our tradition is live and let live, but they are killing us now. We need free.
See this land is green, we need a red and black to it. To make it work out, we need to be like Bon
Better we fighting for our freedom, so you gotta stand up, searching for the garden of Eden. Oh.
We are freedom fighters, lighters.
We fight to live, everybody stand up, fight for your freedom. So tell the people, tell the world, tell the nation, let them know we are triumphant.
Many people are dying. Oh, our children missing.
How long are we gonna live like this?
We are fighting for the future of the children, the hope of the rising sun.
We will keep on believing and fighting to the end of time. We can't we won't. Hey.
Babylon them walkers off in the waiting. Brutality them can never see. The rising of the sun.
They are the futures of tomorrow. Now give them the strength they need. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Freedom song. Freedom. And together we save our land. We need our freedom song. Freedom song. Save our land.
wanna talk about a man who loves Biafra. I wanna talk about a man who is a hero. I wanna speak, you are a great man. Oh, double keep Nnamdi Kanu, you are the one. You read history like a man. Nnamdi Kanu, you are the one. You broke history like a man. Nnamdi Kanu, you are the one we are talking about. You are the hero of our land. You made us to understand the history of the world. You made us to understand. You are leader. I want to know you. You are a strong man. I want to know you. You are a strong man. One man sport over all. One man sport all over the world. Yeah, from man, the lion who is in the Zion. Nnamdi Kanu, you are the one. When I hear your voice, it makes me stronger. Yeah. When I hear your voice, I see the enemies trembling. Yeah. When I hear your voice, I see the Biafran stronger. The people in the Zion, everybody raise your hands for the hero. Nnamdi Kanu, you are a good sense to a land. You set the trap, the zoo for inside it. You set the trap, you had emotion. You rise your voice, yeah, you say it so strong. Hey, when you speak out loud, the outside is confused. The Yoruba man is confused. The zoo is in confusion. You are a true Biafran son. When I look at you, I see other people do. Nnamdi Kanu, I see the spirit of Biafra in you. Move on, move on, move on. We are right beside you. We are in your left and your right and your back and your front. We are with you, our brother. 'Cause you make us stronger. Have you seen a Biafra? The true son of Biafra. He is a true hero. Speaking to the nations, America stood up, Europe stood up, Asia stood up, Africa, they are standing. Everybody is standing for one man. A man of true passion. There is no more going back. We are here to stay. No more challenge, no more debates with facts and figure. They are destroyed. I can see the Hausa man cannot stand again. I can see the Yoruba man, he cannot stand again. You separated the seed from the chaff. Nnamdi Kanu, you are the one. IBOB, they salute you. We salute the hero. We salute the hero. Biafrans round the world. It is time for our freedom. I said this is our season. This is our time. Freedom, freedom, freedom to Biafra. Freedom, 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 freedom.
Allow me to worship Chukwukika Biama on behalf of the entire family listening right across the length and breadth of this very planet. Umu Chineke. All of you who are ordained, all of you who are destined to perform wonders, I welcome all of you. Now, I will present you to Chukwukika Biama in heaven. Therefore, our Father who resideth in heavens above, looking down upon the pain and the suffering of your children, as was foretold by those who has gone before us, that a day will come when the world will gang up, when all the children of darkness will congregate to prevail against your children. That time is now. We are in pain. We are in so much suffering that man cannot begin to comprehend it. We ask for your mercy. We ask for you to come and present and provide a way where there is none. We ask you, Chukwukika Biama, if we came amarani mendo muginine the IPOB. Ne beni ne di chiche, ruwe beni ne o wasoturu. Ki ite magi ne beregi biko baso ha, upoti le kendo ha. Okwasi sweli igwe. We call upon you this evening. The vultures are congregating. The saboteurs are rising up. We are beginning to identify them. And we are dealing with them. We ask you to give us the strength. We ask you for courage. We ask you for every ounce of determination and resoluteness. Make us as hard as steel, as only you can do. Baptize us in your word, in your knowledge, in your truthfulness, and in your strength. Make it impossible for our enemies to come close to us. Destroy them before they come very close. We will be tempted, of course. Our defenses will be tried without a shadow of a doubt. Sometimes there may be breaches, but in the end we prevail, because that is your word and that is your promise. This evening we hold on resolutely to that very command of yours. Your own spoken word. The word that you gave to your children when you said to them that they should not worship any idol, they should not bow before any graven image. We have made mistakes in our lives. We have bowed before European idols. We have done everything but worship you in truth and honesty. But now, having realized the errors of our ways, we present ourselves before you, that you may do with us as you please. So it was prayed thousands of years ago. That same prayer will re-echo, because we are nothing without you. We are nothing without you. We can have the best defenses in the whole world. We can procure the finest anti-jamming equipment available. But it is you that will defend your inheritance. You will defend Biafra. You know that we are honest and truthful people. You know that we preach this gospel in the knowledge that your children must be free in the land of the living, that they may go back and worship you in Zion as they have done thousands of years ago. This is our prayer, now and always, because we are your children. You can't abandon us to the forces of evil and darkness. That is not your will, and it can never be. That is why today, tomorrow, and always, as you have called us to undertake this very monumental and epic task, as you have determined that your word must be preached in the land, that very land you gave to our ancestors thousands of years ago, so shall it be done in our lifetime. Allow us to be worthy to serve thee. Chukwa Biama, allow us to be considered worthy to serve you. You know we speak the truth. Our enemies are liars. They are cheats and they are killers. They are bloodthirsty bastards, all of them. All of them bar none. They have brought their lies to bear upon all their dealings. Their tongue is very spiteful against those of them who are righteous before your sight. Please don't allow shame to befall your children. Don't allow shame to befall your name, because we answer your name, we bear your name. That is why today we make this very prayer in the sure knowledge that Biafra will be restored as your own kingdom upon the face of the earth. That you will be worshipped every blessed day of our lives, as our children will do, and so will their children. Until time everlasting we have prayed in your name. Ise. Ise. Ise.
No peace in Nigeria. It's not the threat, but it's a promise that must be fulfilled. Oh, I have spoken. Biafra must be restored, because the Biafra fallen heroes can rest in peace only when Biafra comes. So many ask for Biafra freedom when they are about to die. Oh, and their request can never be compromised. Their spirit is everywhere, crying for vengeance. Oh, no Biafra, no peace. It's not a threat, but it's a promise. No Biafra, no peace. There will be no peace in Nigeria. No Biafra, no peace. No Biafra, no peace in Nigeria. Say no Biafra, no peace. It's not a threat, but it's a...
Believe it or not, this is Radio Biafra live presentation, reaching you all the way from London with some degree of certainty anywhere you are on this planet Earth. My apologies, because we have a lot of issues that we needed to sort out. You will understand it at some point. Today, without mincing words, without equivocation, marks another milestone on our collective journey to collective self-emancipation. Today is a very memorable day in the lives of Biafrans. Whether you like it or not, the only people that will not be feeling the pulse of the moment are those who are not sincere, who are coming to us pretending as if they are with us. But to all hardcore Biafrans, dedicated ones indeed, this day, 2 years ago today, our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, our supreme leader, the supreme leader of indigenous people of Biafra, was abducted by the murderous Nigerian jihadist government of Muhammad Buhari, ably executed by the most illegal security organization ever to exist on this planet Earth, the DSS. They are illegal, and when we say that they are illegal, we mean every phrase and every alphabet of it. These people do not exist. No matter how fraudulent the zoo constitution is, they are not recognized in law. We only know about SSS. This body is an illegal organization, and as such they are doing everything illegal, every step of the way. Whatever they are doing remains illegal. Like we remind you, and we will keep reminding you, Biafra restoration is irreversible. It is insurmountable, it is unassailable. Our collective quest and resolve to collective self-emancipation can never be quenched by any force on this planet Earth. Our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, was abducted 2 years ago today. Until date, we are still looking for him. But the most important thing is that he has delivered a message of a lifetime, message for generations to come, for both those in the contraption called Nigeria and for hardcore Biafrans. He has challenged the established interests. The emergence of IPOB has shaken the zoo, the contraption called Nigeria, to its foundation. And anybody who is pretending now that all is well with that contraption is indeed a hallucinator. Because as we speak, there is serious confusion along the corridors of power. They are running helter-skelter. They are indeed speaking with both sides of their mouth, and we continue to tell them and remind them that any time, any day, Biafra is mentioned, the contraption called Nigeria will continue to diminish in size and shape and quality. We promise them that, and it is happening. They are still dancing naked in Market Square. And you know what? We are here to assist them to achieve that purpose. Nigeria is continually and continuously on its unimpeded nosedive to abyss. And it shall come to pass that at some point, and very imminently, that contraption, that illegal edifice, that Lugadian creation will indeed give way for the original owners of the land of Biafra, the indigenous people of Biafra, to take over what belongs to them. We don't know about other indigenous populations who are being forced to live in that enclave, an abomination called Nigeria. We don't know about them, what their decision is. But for us Biafrans, the contraption called Nigeria is going to give way for us to take over what belongs to us. Forget about the shenanigans going on. Forget about everything that they are saying. When IPOB roars again, it shall be a total victory. Do not be worried about the rhetorics of the Nigerian government establishment. These are men and women who are drowning, and you don't expect them to be talking like sane human beings. You don't expect them to be conducting themselves like civilized human beings, because Nigeria in the first place remains a citadel of evil. Our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, wherever you are, it shall be well with you and your family and all hardcore Biafrans anywhere. We remind ourselves that 18th of November 2017 remains sacrosanct in the lives of Biafrans. It is a day that we shall once again march and move in an unprecedented fashion to staying at home, to boycotting the Anambra election. It shall be a total sit at home and the whole of Biafra land. We are urging you, eminent Biafrans, to make this day a memorable day to remember in the minds, in the hearts, in the consciousness of the rest of humanity. It is not only in Anambra that we shall sit at home, it is in the whole of Biafra land. Anambra has two important reminders. We shall boycott the election there, the gubernatorial election there. We shall also proceed with the rest of other parts of Biafra land on total sit at home. Do not come out, because if you come out, if anything happens to you, you will have yourself to blame. Successful boycott of Anambra election, successful sit at home on that date will inevitably give indigenous people of Biafra under the supreme leadership of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to move further to announcing a substantive date for substantive democratic process of referendum. Like we said, this ball is now in our court. The restoration of Biafra is now in our hands because the zoo called Nigeria has effectively closed all avenue of progressive action. We have been waiting for them to behave and to bilaterally, together with Biafrans, agree on a date for a referendum. But they have effectively closed that avenue by embarking on the most wicked and massive sponsorship of terrorism against our people. Many of our youths are injured. Several number of them have been killed, and we are still looking for some of us who are still missing. And we cannot allow this heinous crime, this crime against humanity, this terrorism unleashed on us to go unpunished. IPOB, as we speak, has effectively completed the work, at least 95% of the work that it has come to do. We are moving closer and closer to the state of nationhood. And what we completed is referendum. That is why we must take this period, this particular period we are in, this particular stage we are in this struggle, very seriously. Boycott Anambra election, sit at home in Anambra and the rest of Biafra land. We are urging businessmen, captains of industries, transporters, community association leaders, genuine ones, not the likes of Ohanes and Debo, the men who are shameless and who have connived with their northern Hausa Fulani bootlickers in different government houses in Biafra land, to spill the blood of their youth, to sell the collective interests of their own people for their own selfish aim. And today they are licking their wounds because even the northern Hausa Fulani economic and political overlords, the jihadists in power, are not recognizing them. To them, they don't exist. And we shall know where these treacherous set of individuals are going to be at the appropriate time. The question we continue to ask them is, whose interest are you serving? You are not sincere to your people. Your masters you are trying to please are not recognizing you. Where are you going to stay? What is your position? We want to use this opportunity once again to make it abundantly clear to the rest of humanity, and more importantly, the indigenous people of Biafra all over the world, that IPOB is indestructible, that IPOB can never be demystified, that IPOB has come to lead the way for the collective self-emancipation of the land of Biafra and her people. Today, once again, we remind ourselves that our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, 2 years ago today, was abducted illegally. Until date, they are still scavenging for evidence against him. They have not been able to find any evidence. They are now going and conducting themselves in a more uncivilized manner, concocting all manner of lies, deception, in order to nail our leader in order to nail IPOB. Today they say that we are terrorists, but they are going to, after dealing with this present generation of Biafrans, understand that life is not just the way they are seeing it, but that there is a way the natural laws of universe operate. And so shall it be that we continue to pray that the souls of our gallant heroes and heroines who have paid the ultimate price, whose blood have been spilled for no just cause other than that they are asking for their freedom. We continue to hunt, we continue to torment, we continue to hound these evil men and women in Biafra land who have connived with the enemies to come and wreak havoc on our land. It shall never be well with them. The same way that they have deprived families of joy, of happiness that come from family units. It is the same way that we are praying that peace and happiness will be scarce in their families, in their homes. That there we understand how it is. In Enugu State, we understand that there is also going to be council elections. We're asking IPOB family members in Enugu State on November the 4th to live up to responsibility. But more importantly, we want to remind ourselves that though Enugu State council election is important, it is not our focus. Our focus is the big picture. 18th of November 2017. We have a lot of things to talk about this evening. And I must say that it is better said by those who are entrusted with such. It is better that what we are going to do this evening comes from the horse's mouth. I am joined in the studio by no other but by our United Kingdom National Coordinator, Dr. Ukachi Lloyd. And I will be handing over the microphone to him to say hello to Biafrans. Doctor.
Good evening, everybody. Deputy Leader Utumefo, namesake. It is a great pleasure to be here today. And my greetings to every Biafran and lovers of freedom throughout the world. My name is Dr. Justice Ukachi Lois. By the grace of God, I am the UK National Coordinator. And it gives me a great pleasure to be here today to share what we need to discuss today with you all. The struggle so far, as you all know, was accelerated by the massacres of 29th of May 1966. 51 years later, we're still being massacred. But specifically today is the anniversary, which is 2-year anniversary of the kidnapping of our able leader Nnamdi Kanu when he went to Lagos. I think we're going to need to get our refund for that hotel he went to in Lagos, but that's another story altogether. Now, today, as you know, is to remember the anniversary, in that one man, Nnamdi Kanu, catalyzed the restoration project of Biafra, and it demonstrated that courage is contagious. And it was indeed a French foreign minister who went to Biafra during the war, who said, before I came, I was told that Biafrans fight like heroes. Now I know that heroes fight like Biafrans. The spirit is being shown by none other than Nnamdi Kanu for the past 2 years and the rest of his IPOB crew. We can now all talk about Biafra once again, and I wonder why. So in honor and as a way of marking that respect, that supreme sacrifice which has been making not only by himself, by his own family, putting them on the line of liberation struggle for his people and Africa as a whole. And ironically, by implication, Nigerians also, and all lovers of freedom throughout the world. We are going to introduce to you today another IPOB initiative, and it is called Project Chinua. Project Chinua stands for Chi Na Lola Nyogo. Chi Na Lola Nyogo, which means God fights our battles. It is indeed my great pleasure to discuss Project Chinua as we commence this presentation. As I said to you earlier, it's an initiative by IPOB. In Chinua, which is an abbreviation of China Lola Nyogo, is essentially a project of three. One of them is the Biafran Remembrance Unity Bank account, the Biafran Charity Foundation, and the Biafran Remembrance Bank, or the Unity Bank. I'm going to discuss with you today just the Biafran Remembrance Unity Bank account, which Chinua is based on. As we proceed, I just want to remind you all that F in Biafra stands for freedom. And there are historic examples. The Igbo landing is famous during slave trade. And there's a runaway slave calling himself Bona. We'll come back to this later. Olaudah Equiano, as you all know, was among the slave abolitionists. We'll mention him shortly. Haiti is the first of all African nations, and of course Biafra. As you know, if we all believe in freedom, and most people do, then there comes a time when we must act in defense of that freedom. However, Nelson Mandela found out and indeed advised us that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. So I'm going to talk to you then about this Chinua project. There are some concepts involved. On the slide I'm showing you shows 20 by 25 M 0.5E. Essentially is the fund we're going to generate, and it's going to go into Biafra RUBA, which as you remember is Biafran Remembrance Unity Bank account, and that will trigger off the project's main essence, which is Deeper Biafra. Deeper Biafra. Of course, Deeper Biafra stands for the D in Deeper Biafra stands for development and defense. E for education. I saw a picture the other day, and it's part of a book called the Making of a Nation, called Biafra. And standing in a row is Dr. Opara. Next to him is Chukwemeka Odumegwu. Next to him is Nnamdi Azikiwe, another doctor. Then the person who obviously was the international judge at the time, and next to him is Jaja Nwachukwu. So the problem is these guys were seriously educated and of interest. They are the first in their generations that have gone to university. We were so privileged to have those people in those days, and they fought for Biafra. So education is going to be revived. We are going to take it more seriously than ever been before. E in Deeper Biafra is, of course, economic empowerment. The next topic is P, which stands for personal development, which will be both spiritual, physical, and mentoring. Then E again is emancipation, because when you're free as an individual, then you can understand the need for fairness, for respect, for equity, for diversity, and for autonomy. And then R stands for research, which you know Japanese are very good at, and they use the word kaizen, where they improve everything they do. The Biafrans, in one of the languages, have the word inkiruka, which they believe that things in the future will always be better than the things in the past. And they do not hold things as it stands and stand still with it. They run with things and try to improve. So the research will be applied to improve deeper Biafra. And then we're going to form associations of professionals. These associations include such as, for example, Association of Biafran Teachers, Association of Biafran Nurses, Lawyers, Doctors, Engineers, ITs, Professional, Traders, musicians, footballers, etc. And this will have a global reach. Yes, global reach. Now let's just look at this a bit. That the greatest good you can do for anyone is not just to share your riches with them, but to reveal to them their own riches, as per Benjamin Disraeli. But wisdom, as you know, is a defense, and money is also a defense. And as a good book says, about the excellence of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Ecclesiastes 7:12. Now, one of our own, Philip Emeagwali, as you know, was a Biafran soldier, young Biafran soldier. His nickname is Calculus, and has gone on to excel and part of the father of the internet. He says that knowledge is the engine that drives economic growth. Knowledge is the engine that drives economic growth. And Africa cannot eliminate poverty without first increasing and nurturing its intellectual capacity. This project is going to try to nurture and increase the intellectual capacity of Biafrans. We're going to have a look at the sums. You see, when I was at school, the times table was something some people struggle with, but the 10 times table was everybody's favorite. All you do is just add 0 in front of the number you're timesing. So if 1 times 10 is 10, 10 times 10 is 100, 20 times 100 is 2,000, 20 times 1,000 is 20,000, and so on. We're going for 20 times 25 a million. You get 500 million, and so on. We'll come back to this. Now, it's not all about money. As Albert Einstein says, that not everything that can be counted counts. And not everything that counts can be counted. Let me give you an example. Nnamdi Kanu have turned up on the scene. It's not all about money. There are certain things you do in life which are incalculable. So indeed, Albert Einstein have looked into it and said, not everything that can be counted, like money, counts. And not everything that counts can be counted. So those of you who worship money, remember that. Now, challenges and response. The Nigerian federal government, their finance minister, Awolowo, deliberately produced an economic pauperization of Biafrans. So on the 3rd of January 1968, while the war was raging, there's a change in currency. So much for a civil war. You're fighting a civil war, you change your currency. The Biafrans were left with at least 50 million rendered worthless. But they hit back as Biafrans. On the 29th of January 1968, the Biafran currency was also introduced in order to survive. But after the war, in January 1970, Brigadier Khan, who was an observer team from the UN delegation, he You see, they send them out to see if the Nigerians would kill all Biafrans, because Biafrans would say, genocide, genocide. No one was believing them. So they send in after the war to go and see if they'd be killing people in front of Brigadier Khan, as if genocide hadn't already occurred. But nevertheless, this guy who's Pakistani observed that besides the question of food, that another urgent matter of extreme urgency is that of currency. Why are we talking about the question of food? Because Nigerians didn't bother to use Uli Airport after the war. They chose to drop the food in Lagos and go by land, so more people died after the war. It wasn't necessary to go on, but that's what you did. But this guy observed that apart from the food, which was extremely scarce after the war, that people couldn't even buy anything with what money they had in their pockets. They said that the people had rebel currency in their persons, yet they have become penniless overnight, and recommended that some remedy should be found as soon as possible. If you want to check this out, it was in the New York Times, 26th of January, about 10 days or so after the war, 1970. So Nigerians were advised on what to do. So what they do is say, the policy of no victor, no vanquish. And the world clapped. Then they talked about the 3 R's: reconciliation, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. I think if you looked at the 3 R's, you know there are 2 cons in it. Anyway, we won't go into that. Nonetheless, the 3 R's became 3 S's: sufferation, suffocation, and subjugation of the vanquished, the Biafrans. So Nigeria won the war, all right, but they lost the peace because of their actions after the war. They introduced what they call a banking edict, which invalidated all bank accounts. Brigadier Khan asked them to do something about the currency. What did they do? They decided to say anyone who operated their accounts in Biafra during the years of conflict were no longer legal. It was invalidated. I don't know if I made sense of what I've just said. If you had a bank account in Biafra during the war and you came after the war to Nigeria to look for your bank, they said it's invalid because you used it in the rebel territory. So much for civil war. And then they came up with some clever design to bankrupt all Biafrans. They said only £20 maximum was allowed to all bank account holders or depositors of Biafran origin who didn't operate the account during the years of the conflict. So if you didn't touch your money, you didn't come for interest or the amount of the capital, they said you only allowed £20. What do you mean by £20? I've got 30,000 in my account. I survived the war. I need to rebuild. Sorry, you only allowed £20. So you need proof, of course, of the account ownership, the balance statement, and most people died anyway. So those who survived had proof. You only allowed £20. Someone got so upset he took them to court. His name is Chief J.J. Enwe Uzo, and he sued the Central Bank of Nigeria, so that on 7th of April 1970 he paid in £26,659 into the bank. His receipt number is E5005055. Enwe on the 18th of October 1970, a year and a bit later, the response letter followed an appeal which he made. His lawyer had a letter on his behalf. As you know, they write letters to the lawyer, not to the person. And the letter says, your client, this chief who deposited this amount of money, his entitlement as a depositor was £20 ex gratia award authorized by the federal government. What does that mean? My friend, you had £26,000, yes, but you only allowed £20 out of the goodness of our hearts, ex gratia, awarded to you by the federal government. Your government basically stole your money. And this was signed by E.N. Insong, who is the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Are we done? No. What about abandoned property policy? This was instituted. You ran for your life, and after the war, your property is now abandoned. So therefore, there's a deliberate denial of their own assets, estimated several millions pounds worth, when they needed it the most to rebuild their shattered lives. We have over 3.5 million, approximately a quarter of their population dead, several thousands injured and still dying of diseases and malnutrition. All these are preventable, even after surviving the war. They had devastated cities, towns, villages, homes, hospitals, shops, churches, schools, colleges, roads, bridges, etc. But the money they had, they're not allowed to use it, and the homes were deemed abandoned. The missionaries who helped during the war were deported. Some of them were imprisoned. The NGOs who could have helped were not allowed in. Charities who were not complying with the federal government were deported. So much for the Marshall Plan given to Biafrans. Let me make sure you understand what I meant by that. During the Second World War, before the war ended, the Marshall Plan was instituted to help rebuild Germany. In Biafra, your money was taken from you, and your house or homes were abandoned property. Now, the policy to rebuild infrastructures was forbidden, frustrated, but Nigeria had the money. They started a rehabilitation in Festac Town, in hosting a wonderful art festival. They built a new stadium, wonderful bridges in Lagos. In fact, they built a brand new capital. So there was really no reason why Biafra land was not reconstructed after the war. To make the matter worse, the money actually came from Biafra land. In 1971, there was a look into the importation of second-hand clothing. Guess who was bringing these in and stockfish? The Biafrans, in order to survive. These were banned in 1971, so as to throw the ordinary Biafran masses, whose livelihood depended on the petty trade, into penury and disarray. Every effort they made to try to survive was destroyed. Are we done? No. Then they brought in the indigenization policy. This came in 1974. Was timed to effectively exclude Biafrans from ownership in Nigeria's industrial sector, as they lacked the financial muscle to participate in the auctioning of the Nigerian economy, which their hard work, their industry actually helped to build prior to the war. In this cruel policy, it appears then that the vanquished, the Biafrans, were dispossessed of what they had, while the victors, the Nigerians, were deliberately empowered through the banks to purchase the nation's collective patrimony. Therefore, are you surprised that all Biafrans became traders? And even up till today, they're still knocking down your shops to make sure you don't survive. Let me bring to you some association with 20. So I mentioned earlier the £20 economic genocide after the war. They made sure he did not survive. The next 20 is the donation from abroad by an American housewife called Betty Carter, who saw the Biafran babies on television screen while she was eating during the war. And as did many million individuals throughout the world, they donated money to help Biafrans survive. In Germany, 20 million Deutschmark, a lot of money, after the war was returned to the West German government by Biafrans who were in Germany after the war, which was originally contributed by the German public. Very generous. However, $20.1 billion, $21 billion was given to OIC by Babangida to Islamize Nigeria. Another association with 20 pounds were donated by a stranger in Trafalgar Square in London on the 30th of May 2015 by Biafran Remembrance Day. Then another 20 pounds was also donated by a lady from Kuwait who was in a wheelchair during an evangelism at Marble Arch in London, 29th of April 2017. Another association is 20 shillings. This one is quite interesting. This 20 shillings is a reward offered for a slave called Bona. Well, you can imagine someone being whipped and say, "What's your name?" "My name is Bona." "What's your name?" "Bona." "What's your name?" "Bona." "Bona." So his name is probably Ubunna, from Igbo country in Africa. Remember what it says, from Igbo country in Africa. He ran away on the 22nd of November 1772. You missed that. 1772. They were advertising in a newspaper a runaway slave from Igbo country in Africa. Now, America wasn't even formed then, but we had an Igbo country in Africa being advertised as a slave owner called Richard Booker in Chesterfield, North America, December 13th, 1772. The American independence, 1776, you remember? Okay. Finally, the other 20 association, 20 pounds times 2, which makes it 40, was saved up and used to purchase his freedom from slavery when he was only 20 years old. Someone called Olaudah Equiano. Olaudah Equiano, of course, was the first black African to write a book in 1789. It's worth a read. It tells you a lot about the Biafrans. Now, as a significant slave abolitionist, he helped to pass the Slave Trade Act of 1807 for Britain and its colonies. He helped to free others after freeing himself. He was a Igbo Biafran descent. And I commend that you read, and another association, Psalm 20, verse 7. Tells you to remember the name of the Lord our God, whom you're relying on. I'll talk about Vision 2020 and later on. But 20, as a final association, also means Ogo. 20 means Ogo in one of the Biafran languages, Igbo. It can also mean war, Ogo. And the name Chinua has this association with it, with Ogo. It's a Chi na lolam Ogo. Chi na lolam Ogo. Now, Ogo, Eri, is the term we use for a war survivor. As you all know about Ohorogo, it's another name. And one of the athletes is called Ohorogo. Therefore, Werogo Meriogo means use your 20 to overcome the war of poverty and restore Biafra. Oguri is ascribed to war survivors, and there are generations of 1, which I am. There are generations of 2, those born from generation 1. Generation 1. Generation 1. There are generation 1 are those who survived the war. Generation 2 are those who are born by the generation 1, and generation 3, etc. So there are several generations of Ogueris. Now, the living memorial is being proposed by donating, therefore, £20 annually in perpetuity every day that this is marked. It could be an historic date linked to our march to freedom. For example, today, the 14th of October. So therefore, we are proposing that today be remembered as a mark, a memorial, a living memorial, by your donating £20 annually. Remember the association I gave you about 20s. £20 annually in perpetuity. That's every year. As a mark of remembrance. It's a living memorial. The proposal that every Biafran to donate £20 each annually into an IPOB guarded account as a token of their commitment to Biafra restoration, and given a receipt. Well, whiter than white, whiter than snow. You'll be given a receipt for your commitment. Now, more importantly, a unique Biafra rubber number, Remembrance Unity Bank account number, which is similar to UK National Insurance number, is to be issued by the finance team, IPOB, to those who also pay their IPOB levies in addition to the £20 annually. And why are we doing this? So we're going to ensure that you do not be overcome by evil of what has happened to you, but to overcome evil with good, as per Romans 12:21. We're nearly there. Therefore, Project Chinua could help to preempt and prevent future financial ruination of Biafrans. That's the essence of this project. So, looking at the symbolism of it, you have on the left hand side the numbers we're working on. 20 times a minimum of 25 million individuals or more. This will lead to Biafran Rubber Remembrance Unity Bank account. From there, you use it for deeper Biafra. Remember what that means: developing Biafra, educating Biafrans, emancipating them, empowering them, etc. Now, it's a triangle, as you know. In a triangle, the arrows are pointing upwards, which appealing to God in prayer, and the invisible line, which is dotted, is pointing down from God himself in unison in answer to that prayer. Right in the middle is the flag, symbolizing our restoration, with the flag and the rising sun. Now, 51 years ago, one young Lieutenant Colonel Odumewe Juku reminded us, after we've been massacred in the north, he didn't ask for revenge. He said, indeed, we are braced to face and conquer the challenge of the future. He said, we believe that the tomorrow we face, or the battle for survival, will not be won by bullets or savagery, but by brain power, by modern skills, and the determination to live and succeed. We also believe that out of the carnage and wrecks of the past will emerge a new breed of men and women, resolute, powerful, and prosperous. So then, how do we go about doing this? First of all, you start by doing what is necessary. What we're proposing is necessary for our survival. Then you do what is possible. Can you do it? Yes, you can. What about after doing what is possible, suddenly you are doing what appears to be impossible? Can Biafrans unite? Yes, they can. Can they pay £20 each? Yes, they can, etc. This is Project Chinua. We are Biafrans, after all. So then, out of mountains of despair, we're proposing that we hew out stones of hope. Out of mountains of slavery, we must hew out stones of empowerment. And out of mountains of impoverishment, we must hew out stones of prosperity. Project Chinua. What are the benefits? Well, the first year of Project Chinua must be effective and smart targeting of projects which will create employment and a high yield outcome for Biafrans, with the intention to attract more participants the following year. Therefore, there is no room for corruption. Accountability is paramount. This project will, if effectively implemented, attract friends and genotypic Biafrans, i.e., or e.g. in the Americas, the West Indies, those who want to reconnect with their motherland, Biafra. So we're setting a target of 2020 vision and ambition, aiming to be among the top 20 positive indices globally within 20 years of the launch of Project Chinua. So the very last slide tells you the summary of this project. Thank you. And there's a t-shirt even for this, for you to wear and remember today, the 14th of October, as a commemoration for our gallant leader who sacrificed all he had virtually, that we are able to talk about Biafra today, our motherland, Biafra. It's worth noting that in the reason why we chose Chinua as the name for this project is because everybody knows the name Chinua is universally acclaimed and recognized. It's a household name because of Professor Chinua Achebe, who as an intellectual, unlike our current intellectuals, did not let Biafrans down. He was a roving ambassador during the war and published war poems, books such as There Was a Country and The Trouble with Nigeria, which in page 45 and 46 stated the injustice of the whole exercise of the flat sum of £20 approved for each Igbo depositor, regardless of the amount of deposited. No translator or translation will be needed in all Biafran languages, as Chinua is readily recognized for the purpose of this project, and Chinua is also linked with the iconic memory of Ogu and Tina Lolam Ogu. And of interest, the meaning of the war, also meaning war. Now, those who speak Ishekiri must also know that Ogu in Igbo also has an aspect of Ogu with an N in Ishekiri. Also means number 20. So the full name then, China Lola Mogu, means God fights my battles. The name is modified specifically for this project to be all-inclusive, hence China Lolani Ogu, meaning God fights our battles, including the war of economic genocide and financial ruination. This name therefore carries with it a spiritual status and linked to acknowledgement of God as a defender who fought to save us from financial ruins. By acknowledging that and using the Ebenezer principle, as in 1 Samuel 7:12, God will do more for us in the future. So I commit to you, therefore, Project Chinua. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, there are questions to be answered, and I know time is pushed. I'm going to stop here, and we're willing to explain further how this is going to be managed. So let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Thank you.